The audience gets more and more of the impression I'm like against LDS. They're really not. You can ask one last question, but I think the further we go down this.
The day after his assassination, Charlie was slated to speak in Woodland Park, Colorado. They decided to transform this event into a vigil, and they were panicked because, believe it or not, they had absolutely no security plan in place. They thought, how odd.
And so we started our first, before that one, the 24th of the month prior. And we do
2 weeks.
at least. Well, it started before that with the intelligence gathering and all. And all that.
Shocking new footage just dropped, exposing that Charlie Kirk's security team had zero plan for the next tour stop after September 10th, as if they knew he wouldn't make it. But that's not all. People are digging into the head of Charlie's security, Brian Harpole, after a video surfaced that shows Harpole making some strange movements right before Charlie was shot. And suddenly, that whole microphone theory is not sounding so crazy anymore. Now, you probably heard reports that Brian Harpole allegedly attended some kind of closed-door military meeting in Arizona the day before the shooting. But here's the thing, though. Harpole doesn't even have a military background. So why would he be on a military base in a room with a dozen colonels? And even if you completely ignore that part, there are still way too many unanswered questions. Harpole was the head of security for Charlie on September 10th. So why were the rooftops unsecured when there had already been death threats? Charlie reportedly texted multiple people the day before the UVU event saying he was scared they were going to kill him. And this is the level of security he gets? And where was the ambulance? Why wasn't Charlie taken to the closest trauma hospital? Why did Brian Harpole claim drones weren't allowed on campus when we know Charlie was literally watching drone footage on the way there? So many things don't add up, and the more you dig, the worse it looks.
The paramedics that were at UVU, they took off and took cover just like everybody else. And the only people that weren't taking cover were our guys.
So this is a huge red flag. Candace Owens just said on her show that someone leaked something very disturbing to her. Apparently, Charlie's security team, run by Brian Harpole, never even put together a security plan for the September 11th event at Terrace Bible College. Not only that, they didn't communicate anything either. And let's be clear, that event was supposed to be the very next stop on the tour, right after UVU. And yet, that made zero plans for it.
The day after his assassination, Charlie was slated to speak in Woodland Park, Colorado at the Terrace Bible College. They decided to transform this event into a vigil, and they were panicked because, believe it or not, they had absolutely no security plan in place. Why didn't Dan Flood and Brian Harpole and Turning Point USA's security have any coordination with the police departments up in Colorado?
So how does that happen? How does a high-profile tour just roll into its next stop with zero security planning? That alone should stop people in their tracks. But first, who is Brian Harpole anyway? Well, it's hard to tell. Public records don't show his education, ethnicity, or religion. Details are basically non-existent. Some online sources claim he was a police officer in Dallas-Fort Worth, but there are no photos of him in uniform. After that, he worked for a security firm called Resource Group Unlimited, then Schaffer Security, before starting his own company, Rockhouse Integrity Group, in 2023. However, the company has now wiped both its website and social media. Fast forward to September 10th, and Harpole suddenly gets the contract for Turning Point USA events, taking over from Schaffer Security. And Harpole was on the ground at Utah Valley University with Charlie. He's the guy in the blue shirt and aviators. Now we're about to dive into Harpole's strange behavior on September 10th. But first, let's talk about how this new bombshell from Candace about the lack of planning for Charlie's next event totally contradicts what Harpole said in his interview with Sean Ryan. See, Harpole claimed his team did advanced security work, including questionnaires, permits, intelligence gathering, etc., weeks before a scheduled event.
There's questionnaires that are filled out that we create forms platforms that, hey, let's get this information up front. And so we started our first the 24th of the month prior. And so, and that was with the hard conversations, meetings.
You started that on the 24th?
It started before that with the intelligence gathering and all that.
So Harpole is telling us all that busy work normally happens weeks in advance, but when it comes to the September 11th stop, suddenly there's nothing? Why? Did they already know Charlie would be dead and never reach that event? By the way, that whole interview with Harpole seemed like they were doing damage control and trying to get ahead of the narrative before people started connecting dots. For example, why would Sean Ryan ask something like this?
Do any of your guys have any ties to any foreign intelligence agencies, more specifically Mossad?
No, and I've seen that and heard that. I'm a firm Christian. I ask our guys, are you believers? We have no ties to Israel or Mossad.
Seems such an odd question to ask. I mean, why even address something that TPUSA claims is a baseless conspiracy? It didn't feel like real pushback. It felt like Sean Ryan was setting up Harpole to explain things away before people could start asking harder questions. And if you scroll through the comments on that interview, it's obvious people are definitely not convinced by Brian Harpole's version of events. Someone said, "This is not helping clear anything up. If anything, it's pissing me off more." Another person commented, "Sean, did you realize when you interviewed this pathetic, incompetent person that he was lying to you? Or did you realize after?" And then there were also a bunch of comments from people calling out Harpole over the rooftops issue. So Harpole claimed that UVU police dropped the ball when it came to securing the rooftops around the Sorensen Student Center, the spot where Charlie was speaking on September 10th. According to Harpole, he raised concerns with UVU Police Chief Jeff Long, warning him that students could access rooftops and elevated walkways directly above the event.
The Monday before the event, we were still working through the arrival. And so we have concerns with rooftops. And so we have some correspondence with the chief of the school on that day, on Monday before Charlie was killed.
Harpole claimed he texted Police Chief Long asking if officers could patrol the roof or at the very least let one of his own security guys be stationed up there. And Long supposedly responded, "I got you covered." And Harpole claims he took that as law enforcement assuring him the rooftops would be secured.
You want access to the roof, and came back and said, I was told students have access above us. If this is true, it would be nice to either have it controlled access or allow one of my guys to be there as well if possible. He comes back and his last correspondence was, "I got you covered." What else am I to do?
Now here's the problem. Harpole admitted there were no UVU officers on the rooftops during the event, and his own security team was supposedly not allowed up there either. So Kirk's personal security chief is now trying to blame university police? The security of the prime client is the job of his team, no one else. And then there's also that part about the drones. That's where the story starts falling apart even more, because it doesn't even line up with what other TPUSA people were saying publicly. So Harpole claimed they weren't allowed to use drones that day, but then TPUSA comes out and says something totally different.
If the area lies in the Provo, Utah airspace, I can't fly. That's a 107D. We can't break the rules. And then you had secondary restrictions, probably due to heavy foot traffic for the school, but I can't go in and break the rules. There's laws for a reason.
Well, that's interesting because TPUSA's Frank Turek claimed that Charlie was looking at drone footage on his way to UVU on September 10th.
Anyway, on our way in, we had drone footage of the crowd building. Charlie had it on his phone. I said, "Charlie, I don't like this place. There are too many buildings."
So which is it? Because both things cannot be true at the same time. It looks like Harpole didn't get his story straight before doing that interview with Sean Rena. According to Blake Bednar's breakdown, Harpole was acting really strange right before Charlie was shot. First, it looks like he had something hidden under his shirt and something else in his pocket. You can see him twisting or manipulating with whatever's in his pocket, and right after that, the A system starts glitching. And then a bit later, he adjusts whatever he's got in there again.
So Brian very discreetly goes into his pocket and he is going to twist something, whatever that is in there, to dial down all of the craziness that's going on with the audio.
So, what exactly was in Brian Harpole's pocket? Was it something that messed with the audio system? But it doesn't stop there. Right before Charlie gets shot, you can also see Harpole seemingly squeezing something with his right hand under his shirt, like literally just a moment before it happens. And then Harpole's reaction after the shot is also really strange. He doesn't jerk his head in the direction of the noise as most people would. He just pauses for a second and then turns his whole body and heads straight toward Charlie, almost like he already knew what had happened. So it's clear that at this point, we're not just talking about sloppy security. Something about the whole setup feels orchestrated by someone very skilled in deception.